is 10:31 on Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Iowa City Civil Service Commission. We have two items on the agenda. The first one is certification of promotional list for Deputy Fire Chief. Discussion.
We came to you a while back with a recommendation for a process which was essentially scored panel interview. We opened it up for application. We did go through that process and resulted in one candidate who achieved a passing score that is now being recommended for certification. That's current Battalion Chief Zach Hickman.
Okay. Any questions? Any hiccups that maybe need to be addressed?
No, I think it was a good process. Went pretty smoothly. Good discussion. I sat in on the interviews just to facilitate. I did not participate or score, but good discussion, good consensus. I think the questions got to the information that we needed. That we would have wanted to get out there for consideration by the panel. So no, I think it was a good process.
I would agree.
Yeah,
Okay.
Chris participated.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we need a motion to certify the promotional list for Deputy Fire Chief.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes. Okay, and then it's there for signatures. All right, the second item on the agenda is the fire department promotional testing.
Right, so we sent you a memo with a proposed process. We are testing, we are in need of certified lists for the ranks of lieutenant, captain, and battalion chief. You're certifying the deputy chief list today. So essentially, the requirements for the positions have not changed, so the education and experience requirements are the same. What we are proposing is a kind of a shift from what we have done in the past, and that is replacing the assessment center aspect of the test that we've used in the past with a combination of panel interviews. So we would still include external fire professionals as assessors who will have a role in evaluating and assessing candidates, but they would do that through a panel interview format rather than through a series of assessment center exercises. Few reasons for that. One, there's a lot of gains in efficiency, both from a cost, a planning, and an expense perspective, but we also think that we can glean the same information through well-structured interviews. So just to give you some examples, in the past, they have the candidates have been tasked to do things like, a writing exercise on a specific topic, to prepare a presentation on a specific topic. They go through a panel interview. That's the biggest part of the process. And then to respond to a tactical scenario. We think that the subject matter that would be covered through like a PowerPoint presentation, a writing exercise, or reaction to a tactical scenario can all be achieved through an interview format. We can still kind of glean information about what the candidate's response, thought process, preparedness, experience, ability to kind of navigate those situations. We think that we can achieve all of that through a panel interview. And quite frankly, it's a better fit with kind of what the workforce and what the landscape looks like today. Having someone prepare a one-page written exercise is not as meaningful in the days of ChatGPT, where you can just plug in a response and have something instantly prepared for you. And we don't really even discourage the use of tools like ChatGPT in everyday work, as long as everything is referenced appropriately, edited, reviewed for content. But we just feel like sending someone down to have them prepare a presentation, prepare a writing exercise, really isn't as meaningful an assessment as it would have been in the past. So what we want to get at is where their knowledge, where their experience, what they're thinking about a certain topic, and we think that we can do that through through panel interviews. So we would still propose using 2 panel interviews. We would have an internal staff panel interview, which would include appropriate management level representatives from the organization that are familiar with the city policies, procedures, kind of what it takes to be a supervisor or a manager or lead worker in our organization. And then we would have a panel that would be folks who possess the technical expertise from the fire service industry to kind of also evaluate them through that lens. So that's essentially what we're recommending for all 3 ranks. They would have to achieve a minimum passing score in both panel interviews for each rank being tested to be eligible to be placed on the list. Thought being, we don't want an assessment team who's bringing in the skills that we need to help us vet these candidates to determine that someone isn't suitable for promotion. We don't want them to be placed on a promotional list if one of the panels that we're entrusting with that process determines that they shouldn't be placed on the list. So, happy to answer any questions. We reviewed it with Chief. He is aware and on board, I think, with the recommendations, and so we're excited to try it and see how it goes. But I think it'll be a good process, and it'll be a lot more efficient than working through a consultant and all of the planning and expense and time that it takes to put a full day together like that.
Can I make a comment? Is that allowed?
That's up to you,
Sure.
Chairman.
All right. I just know that our members are, everybody's okay with the new method, but our members are really looking for some transparency. The participants would like to know the pass-fail aspect of it, or maybe the scoring, and be able to get some feedback afterwards on what they did well and what they could work on to improve for the next testing process. So we used to get that with the assessment center a little bit. We didn't really get it with the panel interview, the city panel interview on the previous one, but the members would just kind of like the transparency on the ranking and how the scores were established and what they can work on for the next time.
Would it be possible to incorporate that into some type of a critique or a meeting afterward?
I don't know that we would be comfortable. My recommendation would not be comfortable sharing the assessment of individual panelists, but we would be comfortable sharing average scores in each of the categories. So right now, in the past, we have used kind of six categories that are scored that result in the total score for a candidate by a panel. So I think it would be reasonable to offer the average score. So if we have a panel of 3, we would average the scores for each of those 6 dimensions, right, to give them their average score. So someone knew that, out of 5 total points, you averaged 3.5 in the communications, maybe your score was 4 when it came to work preparedness, decision making. I think that would give them some feedback into what aspects they scored well in, or maybe aspects that they didn't score as well in, without getting into giving them individual feedback from individual panelists, which I don't think would be appropriate.
Is there a way to provide more specific feedback that is more, I don't know, like anonymous? Like, you don't have to say this feedback came from this panelist, but like, for example, if they get a 3 in communication, right? What aspect of communication could they work on if they were going to go up for this again? Like, was it your filler words? You're saying, you couldn't get a sentence out.
Well, we don't presently require the panelists to provide that type of feedback. If that would be your expectation, we could certainly require them to do that. But right now, they score, right? They assign a score based on their assessment of the candidate. We don't require them to justify or provide comments validating or justifying the score that they've assigned. So we wouldn't have that information to pass it back.
Okay, so it's just a number that they get from each category.
Correct. Yep.
I'm kind of confused. It feels like we're talking about 2 different things. One is sharing information with
Candidates.
the union. No?
Just the candidates.
Just the candidates.
I'm here just representing our members that are going to be taking.
I got you.
We don't want
Okay,
to
so
know
we're
that.
just talking about feedback to the
To the
individual
candidates.
I know that our
candidates.
members would love the feedback.
Gotcha.
a previous participant and stuff like that, having the feedback
Okay.
to improve is,
All right.
the union does not want it, just individually.
Okay, okay.
And the score numbers is perfect. It doesn't have to be, I wouldn't expect like individual scores from assessors. and
Okay,
stuff
great.
like that. That is perfect.
That would be helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. That seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay. So that will be added in, or?
We would give it
just-
to, if they
okay.
asked for it, we already would give
That's
that. Yeah,
fine.
that's not a change, yeah.
Any other questions?
I just had a question. I think this is just because I'm interested in the command structure of the fire department. I assume since battalion chief is the one that needs the bachelor's degree, that they're most senior of lieutenant, captain.
Correct. Lieutenant would be the first line, the lowest level of leadership.
Okay.
Captain, those are both bargaining unit positions. And then battalion chief is a non-union position.
Okay.
That would be kind of like your division head,
Gotcha.
right? So it's like chief, deputy chief, battalion chiefs, then captains, lieutenants,
Got it.
firefighters.
That's what I assumed.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, and I had two real quick questions. One is for the battalion chief, requires 5 years as a company officer. And so I guess my question, just clarification, does that include lieutenants and captains?
Correct.
Okay, so a lieutenant can jump,
Yes, if they have 5 years, yes.
Okay.
And we have in the past had lieutenants who have tested for both captain and battalion chief in the same testing cycle. And I'd anticipate we likely would again.
okay. And let's see. I think that's all I had. All right, so any other questions, comments? Okay, do we have a motion to accept the fire department promotional testing procedures?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carries. Any other discussion, concerns? Okay, do we have a motion to close or to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries, and thank you, folks.
Nice, thanks.